The Associated Air Balance Council, the world's oldest and most respected association of certified, independent test, adjust, and balance agencies. AABC offers its members and the industry technical education and training, an ANSI-approved TAB standard, and a variety of resources with the goal of ensuring that systems are tested properly and operate as designed and intended. Let's take a look at why independent test and balance is important and why AABC certified agencies are the service providers of choice for every building owner and design professional.
The testing, adjusting, and balancing process is a benefit in many different ways to the owner. You know, that not having the process done may save some dollars on the front end, but the process in itself is all to make sure that the owner receives what he paid for.
For my customers who are either building owners or operators, independence matters because they're getting an unbiased view at their mechanical install, at the design, and actual end performance of the equipment that they're having tested and balanced.
Well, they just get a better product. They get somebody who's looking at all the pieces and how they all tend to work together.
For me, independence is more about trust than it is anything else. Knowing that when they come into the room with a problem and they've got an independent entity as a TAB agent and they know it's independent because they're certified by AABC is the most important part to the process.
They're high quality, high caliber people who are extremely driven to make high energy efficiency buildings and make an impact on what really is the demand of the future, which is the energy market, and how do we make sustainable buildings. And I haven't seen a group of people at any of the other organizations that have that knowledge base that AABC brings to the table.
All right. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to AABC's virtual annual meeting webinar series. I'm Ray Burt, the Executive Director of AABC, and we're very pleased to welcome all of you here today. We have many AABC members here, of course, but we also have healthy participation from both ACG and EMA members, as well as others from across the HVAC and building industry. We're going to take just a moment here for a brief message from AABC industry partner and sponsor of today's webinar, Dwyer, and then we'll be right back to kick off the first technical session. All right, and thank you very much to Dwyer for their support. Do want to have a few Zoom notes here that will apply for both this presentation and future ones if you're attending them in this series. If you have questions for our speakers, please specifically use the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window, not the chat. We will feed any questions to our speakers at the conclusion of their presentations, and they'll answer those as time permits. And as a note, you can submit questions at any time. There's no need to wait until the very end of the presentation to do that. If the question occurs to you, go ahead and enter that in. If you have technical issues with the webinar, please, you do use the chat box for that, and our technical specialists will assist you as best they can. And with that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker. We're very proud to welcome Mr. Charles Gulledge. He's the current president of Ashrae. Mechanical engineer. He has more than 30 years experience in the HVAC industry. He's worked on a wide variety of high-profile projects over the course of his career. And he's actively volunteered his time on industry initiatives for many of those years as well. He's a true advocate. He will be giving his presidential address titled Digital Transformation in the Building Industry, which looks at how changes will reimagine the industry through data integration and new technologies. Charles, take it away.
Thank you, Ray. It's a pleasure to be with AABC today. Let us take a journey, but I'm going to tell you a story about how I got here. I was 7 when my father died from cancer. And then my mom and I lived alone in a little railroading town called Hamlet, North Carolina. My mom was a high school French teacher. Oui, je parle français, un peu. Our summers after my father's death were spent with my grandparents in Valdez, North Carolina. And I know Raphael knows where Valdez is. I called my grandfather Don. He was born and raised in northern Italy in the High Alps region along the French border. He spoke a beautiful patois dialect of blended French and Italian. He would often use this language when speaking with me. One of his most endearing and often used phrases was di pagnente. Let me get the full Italian. Di pagnente. Translated, this literally means shut up. In retrospect, I came to learn that those were tough love teaching moments. Listen, observe, and understand before engaging in the moment. Don immigrated here as a young man with his mother and sister in pursuit of the American dream. Having no grasp of English, he took a leap of faith that led his family to the foothills of Western North Carolina. His example has always inspired me to have the courage to embrace change, and change is upon us. Don was the consummate engineer, machinist, and farmer. He taught me how things were built. He taught me how to farm the land and put food on the table. Working beside my grandparents during those summers provided a bounty of lessons. One of those was the natural progression of work, particularly work on the land. Plow, soil must be prepared and configured. Plant, the seed we sow turns into the crop that grows. Maintain, what we grow needs continuous attention. Weeds, harvest, reap what you sow. I learned that you can't cheat the natural process. There is no harvest without plowing, planting, and maintaining. I began my career on the board, drawing with ink on Mylar. CAD was not around. Industry 3.0 began to offer computers and handheld devices. The shift from paper to electronic world was on. Catalogs were replaced by electronic PDF documents. And sadly, the pocket protector soon became obsolete as Industry 3.0 flourished. And now today, Industry 4.0 moves us into cyber physical systems and the age of digital connection. So why do I tell you this? Well, let's pause for a moment to ask, what? What does plowing, planting, maintaining have to do with our ecosystem? Well, engineering and construction, E&C, is a lot like farming. Plow, preparation requires assembling the correct team. Plant, the outcome we desire needs a well-defined path. Maintain, continuous improvement is implemented to drive value. And harvest, built solutions that exceed expectations are delivered. Yes, the E&C process is no different than nature's own. We can't cheat this natural flow. But let's pause further and ask, why? Why should we care about plowing, planting, and maintaining within our ecosystem? Here's why. We can differentiate ourselves from the competition, identify ourselves as the innovators, improve our profit margins. That's important. Attract and retain a digitally savvy workforce and deliver value. Our evolution to digital maturity can deliver this harvest and more. Alas, every journey has a starting point. In the words of Maya Angelou, if you don't know where you've come from, you don't know where you're going. Before we explore the digital path, let's reflect on our current industry state. Let's start by considering how poorly we have managed our crops. A busted face and bypass steam coil, I think, provides a good backdrop. Why are we still burdened with marginal yields? Well, first, our current workflows are ripe with waste. It is estimated that in the US alone, $177 billion is lost annually on non-productive labor activities. Looking for information, engaging in conflict resolution, dealing with mistakes, and performing rework all impact the bottom line. $31 billion of this loss is directly associated with poor data and communication. Poor, in this context, is inaccurate, inaccessible, and incompatible. Second, E&C is a flat ecosystem. Data reflects that we are not very productive. Sadly, our annual productivity growth has only increased 1% over the past 2 decades. That's 20 years. Stagnation is costly. Third, our ecosystem remains one of the least digitized sectors in the world. Look at us, low and left. Look at the XY axis. That's where we are. To compound this shortcoming, FMI suggests that up to 95% of data that is captured goes unused. We allow knowledge to go dark. Dark knowledge becomes lost knowledge. And finally, we are still shackled to the analog age. Over many decades, we have perfected the dance of the silos. Risk and liability keep us from optimizing the whole. We protect our borders from the impact of others. We have so many touch points. We manually collect, review, and transfer data. We continuously recreate knowledge. We rarely consider cost and schedule as inputs to design. Rather, we delete scope when bids are over budget. We rely on paper for everything. Paper consumes time. We attempt to build something looking across static drawings of variable quality from multiple players. Work results get executed by who arrives first. This is the world we know. We excel at fragmentation and the weeds of waste. But let's look at our current state from another perspective. What do owners want their harvest to be? They want us to do the following: resolve issues virtually before they become physical, reduce the level of unknowns, eliminate the need for RFIs, provide better cost schedule certainty, improve closeout, deliver a complete knowledge base, deliver something that works. These are not onerous expectations. Somehow, though, our industry has managed to lose track of the harvest. How do we change course and alter these conditions of satisfaction? In the words of Confucius, when it is obvious that the goals cannot be reached, don't adjust the goals, adjust the action steps. Improving our harvest begins with altering our view on the execution of work. For many of us, work is a place to go perform tasks. We go to work on a project, finish work for the day, and go home. Our path to fragmentation began many decades ago when the assembly line siloed work. The progression through Industry 2.0 and 3.0 refined work task. Over time, we have systematically built our own silos. What is the work that really needs to be done? What if work itself was redefined? What if we shifted from task to higher value activities? Prepare yourself. A new vision of human engagement awaits work, workforce, and workplace. Imagine a world where we break down work silos and become one integrated force. Collaboration will engage all stakeholders at inception to find value. Digital intelligence will amplify human intelligence. We will be relieved of the exhaustive and repetitive. We will become more analytical and strategic. Projects will move from disconnected paper to connected platforms. We will evolve from intent to build to building virtually. The cloud will facilitate contribution from anywhere in the world at any time by anybody. Digital precision will challenge where physical work occurs. In the field will no longer be the only place for work results to play out. In 3 steps, we can make this our new reality. Step 1, of our transformation requires proper preparation via lean collaboration. Preparation must always keep value discovery in focus. Beneficial impact is best realized when captured early. Effort that occurs later in development has minimal opportunity to impact value, and changes become expensive. Lean processes create better customer experiences. Our ecosystem needs to adopt a lesson from manufacturing. That which does not add value is waste, pure waste. But how do we uncover value? 6 principles of lean illuminate our path. Respect for people is the core fundamental. We must evolve to value stakeholders and their knowledge, solve the issues and stop blaming the participants, and honor our commitments to the team. Look beyond the borders to optimize the whole. Define what customer value means. What do they want? How do they want it? And what are they willing to pay to get it? Map the value stream to identify and remove waste, create flow, and finally, demonstrate continuous improvement along the path. Sounds like weeding the field to me. Prudent preparation forces us to make critical choices before we plant anything. By shifting from design, bid, build, flow, you heard me, we can unleash the power of collaboration. Lean integrated project delivery, or Lean IPD, was created for this purpose. This integrated process changes the timing and order of our engagement. Note specifically, who will build what now precedes how it will be built. Execution of Lean IPD requires new perspective. Consider, there is one narrative. Risk and reward are shared. Decisions are value-based. In all phases, nothing is done until it should be done. And yes, design is no exception. I will never forget my first visit to the big room. My comfort zone was attacked. My understanding of order was threatened. I was in a totally new world, just like my grandfather experienced coming to America. Project success wasn't pre-scripted. Humans reached across borders to define what the harvest would be. We became the operative word. How are we going to deliver this as a team? Flow was no longer associated with fluid transport. How could this be? I'm an engineer. That would make sense. Flow had a far more important role to play. And just for good measure, flow didn't start at the headwaters and move outbound. Oh no, not at all. Flow started at the vision of a built solution and backed up to understand the path that needed to be traveled, a path that revealed how the project would be delivered, what the order of events really needed to be, and who owned the commitments along that path. My grandfather's teachings played out right in front of my eyes. Remember the di poniente. So proper preparation will reveal all aspects of planting the correct crop. How we maintain that crop defines how bountiful our harvest will be. Step 2 requires embracing digital technology. Transformation, though, is not simply associated with adopting new technology. Knowledge needs to be captured and linked. Let's explore critical aspects of managing this process and what opportunities the digital landscape offers us. Digital technology is creating vast amounts of data. We are literally swimming in data. We must figure out a way to connect all of this knowledge. The evolution of the common data environment, CDE, is warranted to manage information, a single source, single truth lighthouse. The CDE platform sets the table for all portable knowledge. And make note of this, the whole TAB commissioning narrative is an inclusive stakeholder to this dynamic. Virtual design and construction, or VDC, is a process that moves us from static drawings to 7D BIM models. We are making the transition from static geometry to dynamic information. Remember when we shifted from paper to CAD? Well, The shift from CAD to digital models will be just as disruptive. Intelligent objects contain knowledge. Changing an object anywhere becomes an integrated change everywhere. Our use of a 7D platform will verify constructability, reveal time, capture economy, integrate performance modeling, and most importantly, connect operations and maintenance. Printed documents will no longer be the primary representation of the project. The model becomes the database of all project knowledge. Generative design is a fascinating concept. Picture utilizing an augmented strategy to automate design development. Algorithms can test hundreds of variables in thousands of iterations. Humans still define the boundaries and the goals, but software handles comparison. I still remember the countless hours that performance modeling used to require. Drawings had to be measured by hand to capture geometry. Elements had to be found on details or buried in the spec books. Systems had to be manually configured in singular fashion. One change required a complete redo of the entire simulation. Those days are behind us now. Objective-based integrated building design is at our fingertips. Airflow patterns are vital. Seems like an important topic for TAB. Simple throw patterns and arrows on 2D drawings do not reveal truth. What doors would open to us if we had insight into how air should act? Tools such as computational fluid dynamics, CFD, allow us to visualize thermal impact, understand the path of air, compare ventilation strategies, simulate thermal comfort, and demonstrate ventilation effectiveness, a very important topic in this COVID pandemic world. By connecting sensors to a digital platform, we can create a virtual mirror of our physical asset. This digital twin allows us to embark on a continuous journey. We collect real-time performance data, provide an evolving profile of past and current behavior, employ analytics to mine the data lake, searching for trends and patterns, identify actionable intelligence, and we just keep repeating the cycle. Now consider what the power of this insight yields. For commissioning, we have a connected tool for tuning performance constantly. For operations, we transition from reactive to predictive response. For R&D, we have real-world information that supports validation of our performative simulations. I'm personally excited to announce that the new Ashrae headquarters is going to have a digital twin to support effective building operations. You've been watching the genesis of our twin unfold. Drones provide invaluable support logistics. Aerial mapping can capture all site and infrastructure content. Construction monitoring is available at any elevation. We are no longer tethered to ladders, lifts, and safety harnesses to view. Thermal mapping can be performed around an entire building envelope. This technology was used to evaluate the as-built integrity of the new Ashrae headquarters. Thermography provided the insight needed to modify the existing envelope for high performance. I chuckle at times when talking with Ashrae presidential member Tom Phoenix. As he recounts, his A&E firm was skeptical about the value of drones. I recall the expression gimmick being used quite often. They now own multiple drones. They are removing waste and securing new work. Scanning via light detection and ranging, LiDAR, delivers precise point cloud maps of surfaces and complex geometries. We can scan densely packed settings to capture true as-built conditions, the mechanical room, for example. We no longer need to search for paper and attempt to recreate what was built. Manual measurement is eliminated. Scanned point clouds can be integrated to our digital models. Technology captures the truth. Augmented reality, AR, can take model data and project a precision reference in the physical world. Peruse the possibilities as you explore LiDAR scans and AR projections inside the new Ashrae mechanical room. Imagine using a simple cell phone and a positioning device to locate exactly where penetrations and attachments should occur. Project a virtual installation onto the target zone. Reveal where hidden infrastructure is located. Wearables allow us to project complete MEP layouts. Virtual insight allows us to see where work results should be performed. Installed work can be verified with the 7D platform. Our third and final step moves our journey off-site. Design for manufacture and assembly, DFMA strategies challenge where work is physically performed. What are the benefits, though, of decoupling work? Well, parallel work leads to shorter schedules and reduced overhead. Vertically integrated supply chains drive costs down. Automation reduces human and material waste. Precision enhances quality control and reduces rework. Applied correctly, this equates to enhanced economy, time, and quality. DFMA, or modular, let's use modular, requires us to think differently about system design. Transport logistics will influence layout. Repeatability and standardization enable production efficiency. On-site logistics determine interface. We are only limited by what can be shipped or moved. Modular is a scalable expression that can be executed at many levels. In its simplest form, we can prefabricate basic assemblies to support on-site or off-site just-in-time flow, and we've seen coil hookup kits for years. Nothing new. But let's increase scale to the equipment level. Unitized skids can be built, tested, commissioned, and validated, offering complete MEP setup. Wiring integrity can be verified. Sequences of operation can be simulated. Functional attributes can be checked off. Addressing problems in the field is all but eliminated. Owners get to see firsthand that their systems do what they are supposed to do before they ever get to the job. Imagine the ability to provide complete MEP solutions offsite. Super skids, rooms, and floors can all be imagineered. Picture a world where central plants are delivered to the job site. The true definition of at scale can be understood when we realize complete buildings can be modular. Pause and reflect on that a minute. We can now design a virtually precise building, build it completely offsite, prepare the site to receive the modular solution, ship the modules to the project site staged for just-in-time flow, then assemble the modules in sequence to form a complete solution. So let your takeaway on this whole DFMA narrative flow something like this. Work results no longer need to adhere to start to finish thought. Via digital precision, we have decoupled the sequential supply chain. Welcome to the future. A new age awaits us. Collaboration, value, digital, and offsite are changing our ecosystem. Collaboration breaks us from fragmentation. We have an opportunity to challenge what work is, how it should be approached, and where it can be performed. We can engage our workforce in activities that seek and create value. Data becomes a critical resource. Everything that unfolds in the future revolves around data. I know some of you have already started to travel this path. Many, though, have not. So, innovators and novices, here's a critical point to remember. Our harvest is realized when we implement technology to improve our productivity. Humans are and remain the key. It is up to us to determine how we benefit from a connected digital world. Virtual design and construction is changing where work results are performed. 7D BIM models allow us to connect operations and maintenance. TAB and commissioning of the future becomes real time. We will evolve to utilize analytics and develop algorithms to reveal actionable intelligence. The digital twin replaces the static point-in-time paper document. Digitization allows us to capture truth and visualize where work results should be performed. Digital scanning sets the table for precision renovation. And get this one, additive manufacturing allows us to take a digital model and plot, I said plot, a built solution. Our ecosystem is evolving to capture the interdependencies of lean, collaboration, physical, digital, virtual, augmented, data, and offsite. Value generation is at hand. The year 2020, though, will be remembered in infamy as the year of the global pandemic. We are witnesses to indescribable tragedy. As for our industry, supply chains have been broken, projects have ground to a halt, co-location events have ceased. Look at what we're doing today. But if we can look past the tragic aspects, opportunity can be found. The very tools and procedures needed to improve our harvest are being thrust upon us. We are engaging in digital collaboration to survive. Reactive measures, however, do not resolve the ultimate question. What can I do to deliver a bountiful harvest? Here is what you can do, or better yet, should be doing right now. Implement a corporate digital core. Workforce, and workplace must be connected. Commit to a digital culture that expands appetite for risk, encourages experimentation, invest in digital talent, and expands collaboration skills. Adopt lean as a core philosophy. And finally, connect with AABC and Ashrae members and resources to expand your understanding of what is possible. Industry 4.0 and the digital age of connection are here. Our world and industry are changing dramatically by force and maturation. We must transform our societies to be digital beacons for our ecosystem, find our internal value and eliminate waste, prepare us to be innovators in a digital world. So please join me in preparing, planting, maintaining, and delivering our bountiful harvest.
Thank you very much, Charles. We do have one question for starters. And again, I'll encourage everybody that if you didn't take a minute to type up a question while Mr. Gulledge was speaking, we definitely have some time to address some of them now. So go ahead and open up that Q&A session and, Q&A section and put any question in there that Mr. Gulledge might be able to answer. So Chuck, the first question that had come in, how much of this process was used for the new Ashrae HQ renovation?
Well, I will tell you that I do believe one of your members actually did the commissioning and provided the thermography videos to scan the existing 1970s building to determine where the leaks were. I didn't have time to show everything. Handheld thermography was used around all the foundations and entry points for facility services in and out, and blower door testing was done. And it was very impressive seeing digital capacity being implemented to find out truth and where problems were. we're going to be very excited to see this digital twin materialize. And I will give AABC credit. When I was with you guys in San Antonio, I remember one of the presentations that was being done was just starting to tippy toe into that water of, guys, the digital twin is coming, and we as TAB commissioning people are going to need to learn how to write algorithms and make buildings hum and purr, and that day is here.
All right. We did get a mini flood of additional questions, so I'm going to move right along to those. Is there a study for the time reduction for projects that utilize this method?
I don't know if a study's been done. Let's just get right to the main question: who's doing this and who's not? Various market sectors are doing this as a course of business because they see the value and they're tired of the silos and the infighting and things not working and stuff that can't be made to operate because it's just not installed properly. Manufacturing, pharmaceutical, life sciences, the big Fortune 100 companies, anybody that's building any part of the cloud, so that whole mission critical area, this is being done in earnest on those types of projects because they see the value. The value can be found, the teams work collaboratively, the digital model is being made, and the beauty of it is it's one model. Everybody's not fighting over which version of software they're using and I own this and this is proprietary. No, that narrative doesn't play. It is truly one single source, single truth lighthouse of operations and maintenance. That's the easier market sectors for this to be applied to because of the burden of public money and structured policy of the conventional SD, DD, CD, put stuff out for bids and find out who the players are after the fact, and then the commissioning, test and balance people get brought in after that when the contractor wins the job. That model is just supported so well by public policy of how money is spent. The model I described to you in this narrative and at the beginning of this question response, all of these people are engaged at the very beginning. And, you know, I mentioned off-site there. We are seeing systems and rooms and floors, the commissioning work, the test and balance work's being performed off-site, just like building it. You know, everything is not being done on the job site anymore. It's being done off-site to help eliminate waste and find value, and that is the future.
Great. Charles, I think you may have already partially answered, but we did get a separate question that said, is there a market sector that this is best applied to, and are there nuances to different sectors? So maybe any aspect of that question you didn't already touch on.
Well, I didn't know that was in the queue, but I stand by what I just said with my winded response before. There are sectors where it's easier to do this and the owners have better control and can control the expenditures easier. I know some of your members have participated personally with me on projects along this path. I'm taking my Ashrae hat off right now. So anything that involves public money, though, it's going to be a challenge. I will say that having conversations with the biggest realtor in the world, GSA, they are very interested in jumping into this water. And that's going to be interesting to see if public policy about procurement can be, the view can be altered, but I'll stand by my previous answer.
For sure. Okay. Will the energy savings of the building, meaning the Ashrae headquarters, be published for public view?
Yes, that's a great question. I'd love to jump on that. We are working on figuring out how to make the digital twin accessible to the Ashrae membership. We did engage the contract to install the photovoltaics. So sometime around March, once those get installed and get added to the system, we will be on the path of demonstrating the net zero performance. And there will be case studies done on the building, published. We are working on that dissemination path to demonstrate to the world why we bought 1970s Energy Pig attic stock to convert over to show people how you could take such an asset and convert it to a high performance net zero type asset. We're just itching to publish that information. So it's coming. When March gets here, then we got a year of working with the PV and using that digital twin to start tuning and making sure we're doing and squeezing everything we can out of it. So it's coming. I can't tell you what the actual path is at the moment, but it is coming.
Great. How successful have you been in convincing owners to pay for this service? We have been doing point cloud scanning, but continue to find the upfront cost too high for owners as they don't understand its potential uses.
I think that point helps answer the question. They don't understand the value that it provides. It takes so much money to go in manually with multiple people and tape measures and, okay, yeah, you can get a laser put on the floor and get bottom of pipe elevations and things, but to manually try to capture with photographs and measurements with a tape measure and then bring that back and tie that into getting it into a digital model, that is just time consuming and waste. So when I get asked this question, I like to challenge the perspective on the question. Is it so much that the owner needs to pay for that added privilege? Or is it the tool improves the productivity of the people doing work so much that they can actually increase the margin on the fee they're charging?
Excellent. Next question, is there an Ashrae standard or guideline that exists for this process? And if not, is one being considered?
There is not one, and that's near and dear to my whole theme this year, to get this ball rolling down this path. And if any AABC members would love to be a part of that narrative, please talk to me afterwards.
Excellent, thank you. Another question, I see construction firms as a barrier to adopting this approach. Do you know any contractors using this approach?
Yes. So I'm going to take my Ashrae hat off right now because we're going to put names on the table. There are very prominent GCs, construction managers that live and breathe this. DPR, Gilbane, Gray Construction. There are players that embrace and understand. I'd even throw Jacobs into this also from their construction side. There are stakeholders out there that understand this value, but keep in mind the markets these people are working in are these Fortune 100 markets. When we start getting down into the smaller scale activities and the expertise is, we know how to do stick-built construction, less prevalent a path to get in. The important part is engaging all of the stakeholders at the beginning. And when I say all, I mean all the trades, all the contractors down through the trades, all the engineering, design, architectural components, all the owners' representation, your tab, your commissioning, your certification, even the normative code compliance people. It's engaging all of these people at the beginning to figure out what the design really needs to be. And it's a whole new mindset. So I'll stop there. I won't go into the mechanical side because I feel too commercial if I go that way, but there are heavy mechanical players in the US markets that are doing this type work.
Great. And I'll note, Chuck, that that question was, I believe, from Adam Muggleton, because he included a note. Thanks for the shout out to his presentation at last year's AABC annual meeting, which of course you were present for on the large international projects.
See, I was paying attention last year.
Next question, prefaced with Charles, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. And I think we all share that sentiment. What type of firms or agencies perform the type of testing that you mentioned for modeling existing facilities, the digital twins, with the technologies that you mentioned?
Read that one to me one more time.
What type of firms or agencies perform the type of testing you mentioned for modeling existing facilities using the technologies you mentioned?
What type of firm or agencies?
Who does the digital twin work, it sounds like?
So that's a collaborative effort that goes into it. It evolves out of having that 7D BIM model where you have all the COBie data tied into it. You have all your IO points from the building automation tied into it. I have seen some where the raw test and balance information is electronically hooked up to it to get real-time performance on flows and airflow and temperatures and all those great little things. Right now, what we're seeing is the owners that have the in-house sophistication to operate and manage those. I think it's a wonderful service sales side for the commissioning world to concentrate on down the future. But where I'm seeing it actively being done is your really big facilities operations that have the savvy resources to understand what's happening and the capacity to write algorithms and start looking for, hey, this has got to happen. I would actually apply that also to some of the more progressive campus university settings also. Past President Daryl Boyce, who was going to be with you in San Antonio, but I got to come instead. His university up in Carleton, Canada, outside Ottawa, they're big on going to digital twin path, and they have the resources on staff to do it. And it's going to get into an owner sophistication game or an outsourced service if anybody's looking for a great way to generate a revenue stream.
Great. Another question, since this evolution that you're speaking about will impact Ashrae commissioning documents, do you project any updates on them, whether that be Ashrae Standard 202, Guideline 0, or others?
That's a great question, and I've got that same question myself. I don't know what this does to the intent and the structure of how Guideline 0 was laid out. And let's face it, that was a well-done document that got into exceptional granular detail along that conventional SD-DD-CD path of delivering projects. We don't have a guide that gets into the lean integrated project delivery approach where everybody's thrown in at the beginning. So that is on my list of evolution of guidance for the industry that both Ashrae and AABC need to be a part of framing.
Great, thank you. Will this process speed up the construction return on investment compared to today's ROI, in your opinion?
Absolutely. But you got to pick the right project and the right circumstances to implement the entire methodology and do some of the stuff. It really gets down to individual project fundamentals and what the project's trying to do. If we're just replacing a bum chiller, not so much of a path to go. But for major renovation and or addition or greenfield, absolutely it can improve the return on investment. And keep in mind, one of those strategic points, and you might want to remember this if you're taking a test for credit, the part about reducing the time and cost of overhead of being on site is critical. We have a solution, we have a delivery mechanism in place that can deliver solutions faster because we're not stuck in the rut of sequential start to finish before people can get to their part where they need to do the work. And the commissioning doesn't have to wait till the very end when everything's in the way. The more we can move work in parallel and do it smart and find value while we're doing it, we reduce that site overhead and we cut down cost to the owner. We shift some buckets of cost, don't misunderstand that. To build an entire building offsite, you've got to build a frame to hold that building in modules to move, and you got to truck it down the road or ship it somewhere, and that adds cost. But you have to balance the how much money and time was saved by doing it in parallel for the whole project versus doing it all stick built in the field and start to finish order. And there is the economic challenge to look at to see if it's advantageous.
Great, thank you. A bit of a long setup on this question, but over the last year, we have converted our tab reporting process to 100% digital real-time collaboration. That seems an obvious step given the state of the art in information management and fits in with the things you discussed today. What do you see as the next steps tab firms might take in terms of technology and training to meet the demands of these new building methodologies? Meet the demands these new building methodologies will bring.
I think I may have left that one out of the bag, but let's just reiterate it. And I give credit again to Adam for last year. Having digitally savvy resources at hand that can help write algorithms to mine the metadata, the data lake, looking for what does this mean, how is this operating, and helping owners functionally operate the building. To me, the sky is the limit on how far the whole TAB commissioning world can go beyond just going out and recording, okay, here's what we read and here's what we set up on day one, and I can't tell you what it's going to be doing day 30 from now. I mean, there is your future. It's part of that continuous living with the building because you have that digital connectivity to allow you to do so.
Great, thank you. What positive impact has this had on projects when it comes to change orders? Has the anticipated cost savings from change orders assisted with the additional cost of performing this service?
Change orders I put into the world of one of those waste streams, and a truly virtually designed building where everybody has been a part of it and everybody is building to that virtual precision should eliminate, I say should, there's always a circumstance that I don't even think about, should eliminate that change order mess of people getting in and doing their work before other people get in the way, determining who needs to build what in what order. This process eliminates change orders. Now, that's not to say that the owner wants to change gears and build something else now, but I'm taking those kind of scenarios where it's true scope alteration off the table. If a building is designed virtually and people are doing the work in the right sequence and it all fits and it can be digitally relayed from that digital to the physical world with the augmented reality and the positioning devices, and people are putting stuff where it's supposed to be, the thermal wells are where you can get to them, the sensors are where they're supposed to be, we shouldn't be working in a world of change orders. And also remember, this is a shared risk reward scenario in one narrative. If you are still correlating that to contractual relationships where everybody's got their own contract and they're trying to minimize their risk of how much they're putting into it, this process is not meant for having those individual silos to work from. But my experience, the experience I see in this industry, is doing it this way minimizes, I will not say eliminates, minimizes change orders and RFIs and confusion and things don't work and things got missed.
Got it. Great. What is the largest building that you have seen this approach applied to?
Volume or dollar?
Does not specify, maybe one of each.
So if I told you the Tesla battery plant in Nevada over 1 million square feet, there would be volume. And I'd say dollar amount is probably more in line with what you would find in the pharmaceutical world, where you're dealing with all the clean space, the clean rooms, the CGMP requirements, and a whole bunch of stainless steel piping, 100 million.
Okay. And then I think what'll probably be our last question, and I think it's lighthearted, but I'm guessing probably a little serious too. How and when do we get to tour the new Ashrae headquarters?
Well, I'm going to go first. I'm going down there. I'm driving down Sunday, November 1st. November 2nd, we are going to, and Ginger, who's going to come to Fort Worth to be with you guys, we're going to film for a soft opening. And if you're an Ashrae member, this is your building, so you can come anytime. But from an organized tour for organizations, we would love to have AABC officially there. You were a part of this with people that were part of this team. And I would say right now we're still getting boxes uncrated. Keys are at the locksmith. The digital passes are being worked on. If we do the tours, it'd be really nice to do once the photovoltaics are in for true hands-on tours. So why don't we say spring of 21?
Okay. And Chuck, we can definitely try to keep in touch with you on that if there's any possibility of doing an organized group for for our associations or anything like that. We'll keep that on top of mind. I lied. We had a couple more questions, and I think we've got enough time. If you're not talked out yet, Chuck.
I'm good to go. I'm on your clock.
All right. Someone asks, and this will be a fun one to answer, but if I learn to design and use these tools that you were talking about, how much of a salary increase might I expect?
We are looking for digitally savvy people to do this, to design virtually with smart objects, to utilize computational fluid dynamics to demonstrate the things I showed. Every mission critical project we're doing right now for building the cloud has to come along with simulation to show that we are removing the heat and protecting the servers. The pharmaceutical work that's taking place, you can imagine what's being worked on with the worldwide narrative that's being talked about right now. All that stuff has got to be stored in refrigerated warehouses for distribution. We're having to do CFD analysis on high bay storage of product to make sure that we can maintain vertical profiles of temperature. Anybody that can manipulate and design virtually to 7D and provide CFD capacity and write their own algorithms to do generative design is walking in the door at minimum 75K. And that's just because they're green.
Sure. Okay, looks like we've got one more two-part question, and now this probably will be the last one. Where can we go to get started learning more about this, and where can we find standards for the metadata?
That's a great question. It's one of the evolution paths that I have people in Ashrae helping me formulate. And I was just on Honeywell's big conference this past week, and I was asked a very similar question. What I see right now is this is the next evolution beyond what BACnet did for us, where we could actually talk and share our data and knowledge. We're now evolving to the whole facility being able to share knowledge and then be able to have the protocols for how to format and organize that data. That is our next evolution. And again, I would love wearing my Ashrae hat again for AABC. If those of you have interest in that narrative, I'd like to get you in the room with the people that are looking at this.
That sounds great. With that, I think we will bring this session to a close. Charles, thank you very much for lending your time and your expertise, including the transition to virtual. I know you really wanted to be with us down in Destin, but we're glad to have you here. Appreciate the ongoing work and collaboration with Ashrae. We want to keep that going with AABC as well as ACG and EMA. So thank you very much for being here.
So don't hang up on me yet. I'm going to put the virtual backdrop for the new Ashrae headquarters.
Oh, that's great. I get a few wrap up things to say anyway. So secondly, thank you to all of our attendees. Great questions. Really allowed Mr. Gulledge to expand greatly and convey a lot more additional knowledge on this. Really increase the value of the whole presentation for everybody. So thank you very much for that and for hanging in. Last things I want to note are give us about 1 week to get continuing education certificates out to you electronically for those of you who have attended live. And then I do want to note that for those of you attending Tom Smith's presentation, which is the next, we're going to take a short break here. That one will start at 2:15, but you will need to, this Zoom link will end. And you'll need to find the link to that specific presentation in order to join that. Charles, any last words?
Thank you for asking Ashrae to be with you again this year. I wish it were in Florida on a beach with some golf involved, but this is wonderful what you have pivoted like everybody else has been forced to do and what you're pulling off, and you should be proud of what you got going here. And
Thank
Adam,
you.
big plug to you. I remembered what you said last year.
Thank you very much, Chuck. Thank you all, and hope to join most of you again in about 15 minutes. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you. Bye-bye.